Are you having problems with your knees flaring out to the side? Today we're going to talk about knee varus. Stick around and we'll get into the details. Knee varus is when your knees start to bow outward, as opposed to a knock knee where your knees go in, your knees actually go out. Now, it's not necessarily a bow-legged condition, as we commonly might call it. Your feet actually might turn out along with your knees flaring out, especially when you're under load. So if you're trying to carry something fairly heavy, balanced on both sides and trying to lift it up, or it just plain squatting down, your knees tend to go outward as opposed to being aligned between your toes pointing forward, your ankle, up through your knee and to your hip. Is usually in line, but if your knees tend to bow outward, then you have knee varus. And that means you have some muscles that are not firing off like they're supposed to, and you're having other muscles compensate for the lack of the primary muscles movement. So we're going to show you some techniques on how to stretch muscles that are overcompensating and get those other muscles ready to fire and let them start taking over the job like they're supposed to. Hey, you have an imbalance. Everyone does. Your body's been having to compensate for it for a very long time. And if left untreated, your body will begin to model to that imbalance. And you might start to experience symptoms of pain and mobility deficiencies. Go to this website here or click on the link below to find out what your imbalance is. So this first image here is all about the gastrocnemius, where that's going to be your foot behind you. You're going to push back into your heel, pushing it down onto the ground. So you want to get that nice leg straight and pulling on that gastrocnemius, which is the muscle on the back. And if you want to hit it a little bit harder, you can imagine pulling up your toes back towards your shin while you're in this stretched position, activating your anterior tibialis muscles, because muscles work antagonist to each other on opposite sides of a joint. So if you're lifting up your toes, then that means your gastrocnemius has to relax, because your gastrocnemius really wants to lift up your heel. So if you activate your anterior tibialis, it forces the muscles on the back side of your calves to try and relax. So it's just a little extra tip and trick to get a little bit more, stretch, inhibiting and stretching at the same time. Now, this next pose is fairly close to working gastrocnemius. This is more focused on the soleus muscle. Instead of extending our leg out behind us, we're kind of just keeping it here, bending our knee. So we're really hitting that Achilles tendon, trying to keep our heel on the ground, bending the knee. You'll feel it. It feels a lot different than the other stretch of the gastroc. This soleus muscle lays underneath your gastrocnemius, but you still need to get it in the same way. And again, you can use that inhibition trick of trying to lift up your toes in front of you. Again, like all stretching, hold for 30 seconds or longer, and don't forget to do the opposite leg. Now, the next stretch I'm going to show you is the static supine biceps femoris stretch. And this one hits that biceps femoris a little bit more targeted, almost the same thing as the hamstring stretch, but we're going to take the leg a little bit over the center line, over to the opposite side. I'm not going to let it drop down onto the floor. We're going to keep it up in the air. And again, we're going to take our hands and we're going to keep that leg pulled in towards our chest again, and try and keep your leg as straight as possible. And it's not easy, especially if you have tight hamstrings and tight bicep femoris muscles. Again, 30 seconds or longer. Switch legs to the opposite side. And then here's a variation of doing that same stretch for the bicep femoris, where we're using a bench. You're going to put one leg up onto the bench, and you're going to twist in the opposite direction. So your upper body is going the opposite direction than what your foot is. So you intentionally want to have your foot cross over your other foot. So as you can see, I'm taking my right foot. It's on the bench, but it's across the center line of my body to the left of my foot. And then I'm taking my upper torso and twisting to the right. And that twisting action is what helps target that bicep femoris a little bit more. Like any other stretch that's even on the floor, you're holding this for 30 seconds or longer. And it depending on your capability, if you need to be on the floor only, then just do the floor ones by all means. But you can also do this one standing up if getting onto the floor is a little bit harder for you, depending on your capability. As you get along in your body and balance program, you'll be able to do some of these more alternative methods of doing this stretch. This one works a little bit on your pre-proprioception because you're standing on one leg, other leg on the bench, and you're twisting. So it's working that sense of balance at the same time, which is also necessary as we continue through life. You need to keep your balance. Finally, we have the piriformis stretch. You're going to take one leg at a time, cross it over your other leg, put your foot on the floor by your knee. Take your other opposite hand and put it on your leg, and you can help that put a little extra stretch by pulling it across further. And you can do this right after you finish your bicep femoris stretch while you're in the same position on the floor. Hey, if you like this video, do me a favor and put a comment down below, and even subscribe or hit that like button. And if you subscribe, hit the alert bell so you don't miss another video that I put out. But even more so, I'd appreciate it if you go to correctivemechanics.com and check out some other videos and tips and tricks that we have. And I also have available for you a free ebook that shows how the whole process of corrective exercise works and in what procedures and steps that we use in what order. Until next time, take care.